Welcome to Lab 16. A little bit of a tougher lab. We're configuring the default gateway for routers and switches. You can read, definitely look at the diagram a few times so you can see what's going on, but basically we want our switch to be able to reach the network on router 1 even though it's got an address in the subnet connected to router 2. So we can only have one default gateway in a switch where we send all of our IP traffic. So it's going to be sending our traffic to router 2. Router 2 will take care of sending the traffic onwards through the switch to router 1. So have a look, make sure you're familiar with the diagram, what you're required and what's happening, where our traffic is going. And then just follow along the configs with me. So we're configuring our router 1. You should be familiar with most of the configuration commands up to a point, the IP addresses and such like. You won't be familiar with adding sub-interfaces to routers, but we'll be going on to that again later when we do our routing labs. So we're adding a default route. This is basically saying send any traffic for any subnet out of Fast Ethernet 0/0. So it's a real easy way of just configuring our static routing. I've done this before on clients' sites where they don't know their next hop IP address. They've been given a router and a connection through their service provider. And we don't really need to know where the traffic's going to go. We just send it all off to the service provider and they take care of the routing. So I've checked the interfaces up and it was down, so I've issued a no shut. I thought it would have come up being connected directly to a switch. But there we go. So I've no shut the Fast Ethernet interface on router 1. So that's all we have to worry about, I think, for router 1. Router 2, we've only got one physical interface connection here, so we're going to need to split it into sub-interfaces, and you'll see the configuration as we go along. And each of these sub-interfaces will be in a different network and connect to a different VLAN. Now, you can add a description. It's real handy to do as an administrator, so you can see why the interface is doing what it's doing or what it's connected to. It's good for administration if somebody else is managing the network also or taking over after you. So Fast Ethernet 0/0.10, so this is our sub-interface and it's going to be for VLAN 10 and it's standard procedure and good administration to name the sub-interface the same number as the VLAN. So I have the description also. Sub-interface for VLAN 10. This isn't actually part of the configuration. The description command is what they call a cosmetic command. So encapsulation, we can only actually add one type, I believe, on this model of router, but I've set it as .1q anyway, and then space, and then the VLAN number that we're connecting to. Encapsulation .1q space 10. Would you need to know this for the CCNA? I think you would actually. I think you would. You could be tested on this. So adding an IP address in the correct subnet, we've got two different subnets in this lab. Adding our second sub-interface, this is for VLAN 20. Encapsulation.1q20 native, so this is the native VLAN. I'm sure hopefully you've covered that in whichever theory guide you're going through. We'll come back to the native VLAN in another lab, but you can see our sub-interfaces are both configured in different subnets and they're both up. VLAN 10 created. I'm giving it a name. This whole naming and descriptions just makes things a lot easier for us, because otherwise you're going to spend a lot more time trying to work out which interfaces belong to which VLANs and sub interfaces. So we're setting our Fast Ethernet 0/2 as a access port, and that's going to go into VLAN 10. We're shutting down the native VLAN or VLAN 1 because we have a different VLAN as our native VLAN. So added IP address 192.168.1.6 for interface VLAN 20. Now this is the default gateway command, IP default-gateway. This is where we're going to send all IP traffic from the switch. And it's going to go to 192.168.1.5. And you can see our VLAN 20 IP address is up, interface VLAN 20. I'll just check in to see if the command's available, but it is not available on Packet Tracer. There's one other command that will need to be added to get this all working. I'm going to try it first try the ping without the command added. But as you'll see, it doesn't work. So we're going to go to our interface Fast Ethernet 0/3 switch port trunk, and it's the native command we're looking for, native VLAN, and we need to set the native VLAN as 20. Set the ping, and the pings work, so we've proved off the lab. You must do this lab quite a few times, obviously, but that's the end of the lab. Thanks for listening.